The tears in my father's eyes, uncovering the truth. My dad was a very hard-working man. He always woke up early in the morning and went to work at the factory. He would work long hours, even on weekends. But no matter how tired he was, he always made time for his family. I remember one day, when I was playing with my toys, I asked him why he worked so hard. He smiled at me and said, "I work hard to make sure you and your mom have everything you need. I want to make sure you have a good life." I knew my dad loved us a lot. He would come home from work and play with me and my little sister. Sometimes he would even make us pancakes for dinner. I loved spending time with him. But one day, I saw my dad cry. I had never seen him cry before. I asked him why he was crying. He wiped his tears and said, "Sometimes grown-ups cry too. It doesn't mean I don't love you." I didn't understand why my dad was crying, but I knew it must have been something really sad. I wanted to make him feel better, so I gave him a big hug. He hugged me back and whispered, "You're my little champion. I love you so much." That was the day I learned how much my dad loved me. Even though he worked hard and sometimes felt sad, he always made time for me and my sister. And no matter what, he always loved us. As I grew up, I began to understand more about my dad's life. He had grown up poor, with very little money. He had to work hard from a young age, just to help his family survive. Despite all the challenges, my dad was determined to make something of himself. He went to school and worked hard to get good grades. After he finished high school, he got a job at the factory. It was a tough job, but he was grateful to have it. As the years went by, my dad's job at the factory became more and more demanding. He had to work longer hours and do more work, just to keep up. But he never complained. He knew that he had to provide for his family, and he was willing to do whatever it took. One day, when I was in high school, my dad got hurt on the job. He hurt his back and couldn't work for a while. It was a scary time for our family because we relied on his income to pay the bills. But my dad never gave up. Even though he was in pain, he kept going. He went to physical therapy and did everything he could to get better. And eventually, he was able to go back to work. Through it all, my dad's love for our family never wavered. He always put us first, no matter what. And even though life was hard, he never gave up. As I got older, I began to appreciate all the sacrifices my dad had made for our family. He had worked hard his entire life, just to make sure we had everything we needed. I remember one day when I was in college, my dad came to visit me. We went out to lunch, and he told me about his dreams when he was younger. He had wanted to be an artist, but he knew that he couldn't make a living that way. Instead, he had worked at the factory year after year. He had missed out on so many things just to make sure we had a good life. He had missed birthdays and holidays and important events, all because he had to work, but he never complained. He was proud of what he had accomplished, and he was grateful for his job. He knew that he had done what he had to do to take care of us. As we finished our lunch, my dad looked at me and said, "I just want you to know how much I love you. You and your sister are the most important things in my life. I would do anything for you." I could see the tears in his eyes, and I knew that he meant it. My dad had made so many sacrifices for our family, and he had done it all out of love. From that day on, I made a promise to myself. I would work hard and make something of myself, just like my dad had done, and I would never forget all the sacrifices he had made for us. As I grew older and started my own family, I realized that I wanted to be a dad just like my own dad. I wanted to be there for my kids, just like he had been there for me. I called my dad one day and told him about my plans. He was overjoyed. "I knew you'd make a great dad," he said. "Just remember to always put your family first." And I did. I worked hard to provide for my family just like my dad had done, but I also made sure to be there for my kids. I played with them and read to them and tucked them in at night. One day, my dad got sick. It was a scary time for our family because we didn't know what was going to happen. But we all came together and supported each other, just like my dad had always taught us to do. As we sat by my dad's side, I realized how much he had taught me over the years. He had taught me to work hard and never give up. He had taught me to love my family and always be there for them. And most of all, he had taught me what it meant to be a good dad. My dad passed away a few days later. It was one of the hardest things I had ever been through. But I knew that he was at peace because he had left behind a legacy of love and sacrifice. As I looked at my own kids, I knew that I would always remember my dad's lessons. I would always work hard and love my family just like he had done. And I would always be grateful for the time I had with him, because he had taught me what it meant to be a good dad.